Hi everyone. In this talk, I will present the paper Towards Semantic Publishing in Non-Invasive Brain Stimulation, a comprehensive analysis of rTMS studies. This research is joint work between myself and my colleague Swati Anil. Swati had the affiliation with the University of Freiburg at the time of this work, and myself, I'm affiliated with the TIB Technical Library in Hanover, Germany. So let's get started by clarifying what this paper is about with respect to the title. First of all, non-invasive brain stimulation. This is the overarching application area of our work. Non-invasive brain stimulation, or NIBS for short, is indeed a remedial practice in medicine. Furthermore, our paper addresses how next-generation semantic publishing methods of the digital libraries can be used to record NIBS studies, facilitating their standardized recording. Furthermore, we demonstrate this concept in practice for one specific type of NIBS as a method, which is called repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation, or rTMS for short. So, to offer a bit of a background, let's clarify a few jargons that are associated with this work. First of all, what is NIBS and what it is used for? Non-invasive brain stimulation is a rapidly evolving field in neuroscience that involves modulating neuronal activity in the brain without surgical intervention, often employing electric currents or magnetic fields. These techniques have the potential to treat conditions like depression, anxiety, and chronic pain, and to provide insights into brain function in a non-invasive way. And then what is rTMS and what is it used for? So repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation, or rTMS, is a sub-area of NIBS. Recent decades have seen rTMS emerge as a promising tool to improve cognitive functions such as attention, memory, language, and decision-making. It is also being considered for treating neuropsychiatric conditions like treatment-resistant depression, schizophrenia, and OCD, in addition to applications in stroke recovery, pain management, and brain function research. The various stimulation parameters of the applied magnetic field play a significant role in shaping the effects of rTMS on brain activity and clinical outcomes. This set of parameters, taken together when applied, is referred to as an rTMS dosage. Commonly known parameters are intensity, duration, frequency, and pattern. So here is a typical equipment, typical equipment around rTMS. So first of all, there is a coil involved that's applied directly to the brain. The coils can be of different shapes. So here you basically see the apparatus that is used in clinical practice. And here you see the various parameters that are then controlled or varied in the application of rTMS. So what is the motivation of this work? The motivation of this work is based on our observation of non-standardized recording practices of rTMS studies. An ongoing concern in the field of rTMS is the lack of standardized reporting for dosing parameters, which has implications for comprehensive understanding and clinical application of these techniques. Currently, the reporting of rTMS dosage relies on textual descriptions, leading to varying levels of detail and specificity. So the problem then is, without standardized reporting for rTMS dosage, comparing and replicating research is challenging, which restricts evidence accumulation and generalizability across various populations. This also complicates meta-analyses, impeding the effective integration of rTMS in clinical practice. So efforts to establish standardized reporting guidelines for rTMS studies are warranted, aiming to enhance transparency, reproducibility, and collaboration with this field. So in this work, our aim is to apply the fair semantic publishing of modern digital libraries in science for rTMS. So a little bit of a background on fair semantic publishing in science. Recently, there is a growing general impetus driving a change in the status quo of discourse-based scholarly communication toward fair publishing as structured scholarly knowledge graphs by adapting the technologies of the semantic web. The semantic web publishing method essentially utilizes semantic technologies and ontologies to structure and standardize data, in turn making them machine actionable, enabling more efficient and meaningful reporting, querying, and analysis of information on the World Wide Web. In this context, the Open Research Knowledge Graph Project, or the ORKG, is an exemplar next-generation semantic publishing scholarly digital library. So on this image, on the left side of the screen, you see semantic scholarly knowledge publishing workflow, and on the right side of the screen is shown traditional publishing. So considering the semantic scholarly knowledge publishing workflow, essentially scholarly communication leverages the structured method, so a fine-grained structured representation, which enables it to be highly machine actionable, which in turn facilitates downstream applications such as computing research comparisons automatically. Note that this is not possible in the context of traditional publishing workflows. So we thus posit the adoption of semantic methods from computer science by using platforms such as the ORKG as a solution to the problem of non-standardized reporting of Neuroscience NIBS study doses generally. And in this work, we show how we apply this to the reporting of rTMS study doses specifically. So the plan for the talk is to first visit a few technical considerations that needs to be in place for the semantic publishing of rTMS studies. Secondly, the semantic model that we use for rTMS study doses. And finally, how rTMS semantic publishing satisfies the FAIR principles. So let's get started with the technical considerations. Now, semantic publishing essentially entails defining the salient entities, attributes, and relationships for the rTMS domain as standardized resources accessible on the web via URIs. Secondly, publishing rTMS doses using structured subject, predicate, object triples in RDF that are machine actionable, instead of as sentences in natural language. Thus, in essence, the technical requirements around FAIR semantic publishing functionalities are already available within the ORKG digital library. So we leverage this platform to publish rTMS studied doses. So what's left? What's left then is to define the standardized vocabulary in terms of properties and resources to describe rTMS doses in a structured and machine actionable format. So let's take a look at the semantic model for rTMS study doses. Essentially, we need to define a vocabulary. Arriving at the standardized vocabulary in terms of properties or resources to describe rTMS doses has two steps. The first step is the specification of the properties of the rTMS doses. In this case, we have to consider a requirement. These properties that we decide on have to be generic enough to apply across a wide range of rTMS studies, thereby enabling their standardized structured descriptions. So how do we arrive at these generic set of properties? What we did in this work was we selected a survey paper that offered a comprehensive review of rTMS studies between 1999 and 2000. This was work by Thury et al. And was published in the European Journal of Neuroscience. So the paper introduced a set of salient properties based on which over 600 rTMS studies were compared. The standardized applicability of the properties over the large number of studies indicated that they were generic enough to be realized as a schema. So we then specified these properties within the URI namespace of the ORKG. Essentially, we arrived at 15 properties in all. Here are some examples of the properties. So type of rTMS, properties around the coil size, and properties around the stimulation, the magnetic stimulation itself. The selected rTMS properties are defined as resources on the web with dereferenceable URIs in the ORKG namespace. Now, we referred the listener or the audience to the paper for a clear motivation on the benefits of using the ORKG namespace to define the URIs, as well as for the actual URIs themselves. In a second step, we then needed to specify the rTMS dose property values as either resources or literals. In order to decide whether a value would be a resource or literals, we followed the recommended practices of the semantic web. Basically, given a property, we determined if its value was an entity in the real world, and the set of possible values was a discrete set. All such property values were deemed resources. Otherwise, all continuous values or string comments were treated as literals. So of the 15 properties we had, 6 had literal values and the remaining 9 had resources as values. So example, the property type of rTMS could take one of 4 resource values: conventional rTMS, intermittent theta burst, stimulation, and so on. While on the other hand, the property interburst frequency took a floating point number as value and thus was defined as a literal. So now let's take a look at how rTMS semantic publishing satisfies the FAIR principles. So in practice, all 600 reviewed rTMS studies in the paper we then published in the Open Research Knowledge Graph using our vocabulary. So on this slide, you basically see a single structured study as a machine actionable description, described in terms of a standardized set of properties. We then released 6 automatically computed comparisons of 100 studies, respectively. This highlights the advantage of standardized descriptions of rTMS studies in modern digital libraries, such that they can be automatically compared. So in practice, now what makes the rTMS data fair? So we call the subset of the ORKG, including the 600 rTMS structured studies, as rTMS-KG. So let's visit the characteristics of rTMS-KG in terms of the FAIR properties. So each published rTMS study in rTMS-KG can be persistently identified with the Digital Object Identifier, or DOI, which means it satisfies the findable constraint. Each resource resolves to a landing page providing access to metadata, respective rTMS study data, and versioning, all of which is indexed and searchable. This makes it findable, accessible, and reusable. rTMS-KG can be downloaded over the web from the ORKG in RDF, which means it's interoperable. The rTMS vocabulary can be mapped to existing relevant ontologies via same-as links, which again means it's interoperable. Finally, the ORKG provides public search interfaces to build custom use of rTMS-KG, which means it satisfies the accessible property as well. So with this, we've taken a brief look at the semantic publishing of rTMS studies that we proposed in practice in this work. So in conclusion, a few takeaways. The US Food and Drug Administration has granted approval for the use of rTMS as a therapeutic tool, specifically for the treatment of major depressive disorder, MDD, or OCD. However, due to the non-standardization of experimental protocol and data reporting of rTMS, the evidence to inform clinical applications is highly inconsistent and substantially based on trial and error. Thus, this work has proposed leveraging the semantic web methodology for the standardized and fair publishing of rTMS studies as a solution. As such, it shows a practical implementation on the ORKG digital library. While this work has demonstrated the semantic publishing of rTMS doses specifically, it can be generalized to all NIBS study areas. With this, I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to take questions.